Welcome to pay-to-play report for the Settlers Heritage of Kings. Settlers Heritage of Kings is a PC exclusive and it's a real-time strategy game with interesting approach to the economy section of it. I'm playing a history edition which includes all the expansions, even the ones that were not available to non-German speakers before. Now let's look quickly at the options here, specifically at graphics. You can see that I'm playing it everything on high. But at the same time, you're going to notice that I'm going to have a very high FPS here. I'm not sure why Ubisoft did not tinker with that and did not fix that for the History Edition, because I really don't see a point to have extremely high FPS in an RTS game, right? 60 is fine. Above 60, I'm not sure if it's necessary to have it, going out. Like, it usually goes around between 500 to 600. All right. So let me load into the game and we're going to talk a bit more about the game itself. So here it is. I'm just going to go ahead into this save file and I'm just going to show you how the game looks and works and so on. So what the game is about? Well, the game has a campaign in it that you kind of do the whole story of your kind of a son of a king that's reclaiming the imperial throne and rebuilding the whole empire. And there's just a type of a usual good versus evil type of themes in the game. There's nothing really different from that, nothing really unexpected. So here we are. This is how the game by itself looks like. As you can see, visually it's pretty good. You can be able to tell units apart, you can tell who is who, you can be able to tell which buildings to do what. You can also zoom in if you want to, or zoom out. Zooming out, as you can see, makes the visuals a bit harder. There's also weather effects in the game, and so if you zoom out during rain or snow, you're gonna have a problem of actually seeing your units. But actually zooming out allows you to see the terrain better. When you zoom in though, that kind of clarity disappears. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead, grab these guys, and I'm gonna send them off to build here, which is a village center where all my other workers will be coming from. That's how the game pretty much controls where you're gonna build your towns, and that's also your population controls format, right? This village center will give me 75 pretty much kind of a housing spaces or something along those lines, or units that I can recruit, basically. And let me show you exactly what that means. So this is another group, and I'm gonna go ahead and send them to go search for resources. Now, these guys are done. And these are my basic units. Like I said, this is an RTS game, and so like basic units, you have here a location where you can build
You do not have enough
build additional units, and these guys can also harvest certain resources. But there's a better way to do so. If I'm going to go here, I'm going to find there's something called a clay shaft, right? So these guys are harvesting clay here, but I'm going to build in the clay shaft a type of a mine installation. And as a result, it will be more efficient mining of clay. Now I'm going to send these guys to go get me wood. That's the only resource that you cannot build a specialized collection facility for, is wood. Now see, here's my village center. It tells me that I got 75 in total of population. I already got 18 units on the map that I used up. Here it is. The clay pit is complete. And now what you're going to see is that workers are going to come out and they're going to move to the clay pit. And you can see them here. So what these workers do, they work actually way more efficiently than your serfs do to provide you with more materials. Now, they also have certain needs. These workers need to go eat and sleep, and for that reason, you're gonna need to provide facilities for that food for them. So basically, they're not gonna work all the time in the pit itself. They'll come out and they'll say, now I need to go eat somewhere, and now I need to go sleep somewhere. You can force them to work overtime, but that will impact your morale or motivation, as it's called here, which will reduce the amount of resources they're producing. So to supply them with food, you're gonna build them a farm. Now, as you can see, the farm is completed now, and these workers will be serviced by this farm. But now you're also gonna see another worker appear, which is called a farmer. All these guys now are going to need somewhere to sleep, so I'll have to build a house for them. Now all those buildings can be upgraded later on, and as a result of upgrades, you're gonna have more workers working in them, or more spaces to service those workers, and so on. So letting them build up the house, so I can show you that. So like I said, usually we're all good, right? You can tell what's a farm from a house. You can tell clay pits from everything else. There we are. So here we build a house. Now the workers will be happy. And now we're gonna build something called a college here. This allows me to research further buildings. As you can see here, I have more buildings available, but just because I built other buildings that are available already to me before does not mean that the new buildings will appear. No, I will need to research them in the college in order for me to get further in the technology tree. So let's do this. Let's quickly jump to further where I'm a bit more built up. Here we go, come on. There we are. We are more built up. And here I have a college already built and one farm, but I think I'm gonna need to build up.
You need more clay.
See, I don't have enough clay now, but I'm gonna need to build up housing for them and so on, because the college is populated also by a special worker called scholars, and they also require food and residence to live in. And if let's say if I'm going to say I want them to research something right now, it's not going to start researching until they are back in the building working. There you go. We have a few more other resource extraction facilities here available to us. And like I said, every building can be further upgraded, and so you have ability to do so, and further technologies to research in the buildings. Now, you're also going to have a special buildings further that will allow you to improve your resource production. I'll show you that later. Additionally, you'll be able to control eventually your tax rate. What's a tax rate? Well, you see, you have different resources here that you need to use. You have clay, wood, stone, iron, and sulfur. But there's also something called thalers, which is kind of an alternative to to a resource that usually is referred to as gold. And this resource you get as tax payments from your workers. Your serfs don't pay taxes, but your workers do. So it's kind of beneficial for you to have more and more workers because they're gonna pay you more, right? But then you also have limitations in terms of how many you can have due to population, and this population also applies to your soldiers. Now, soldiers require payment of dollars, and so they constantly draw down on your in terms of your income, right? The income is paid once this circle goes, the line goes here around the circle, then your workers will pay. And here's a good example of the fact that the weather obscures view if you zoomed out too far.
Your scholars have researched.
All right, I couldn't plan this any better myself. Okay, so we got this. Let's jump further into the game and show you a different situation where we already have everything built up and we can have military units, and we could talk about that there. Okay, like I said, there's also expansions here, and the expansions increase what you're available to you. So in the main game, you have this the whole plot of rebuilding the empire. The first expansion then focuses on fighting the barbarians. The second expansion then further has fur campaigns that you kind of follow your heroes that you have throughout the first and second expansion on further quests and further your stories that are out there. Right, here's my guys. I need to have them build up a bit of defense here so that the enemy does not destroy me. And here we are, we're in a much more built up version of the town. And let me show you a few buildings that are kind of interesting. Here's one of them. This is a lumber mill. You have sawmillers working here. Lumber mill allows you to improve some technologies for your military, but it also has a sawmiller. These guys will go to your castle or to some kind of storage area that you have, like I have here, and they'll take one wood out of there and bring back to you. So basically, that's kind of where work. And as you upgrade the buildings, the more sawmillers you're gonna have, and so on. The same kind of buildings they are available for the stone, for iron. There's the ones for sulfur, and for clay. We also have military buildings, which allow you to build different military units. Here I have a cannon already building, and also they allow you to upgrade your military units. Let's talk a bit about that. So here's our military units, and they're kind of built around the idea that you actually train captains. Captains then have soldiers hired. I'm gonna remove that so we not distracted. So here it is, I have soldiers with this captain, so I command them as one unit, and depending how much you upgraded your soldiers, your visual appearance will change. They're gonna get more armor, they're gonna get more health and so on, and better attack, and also your captains will be able to hire starting from 4 to 8 units. Right now this captain is missing 2. If I move this guy somewhere where, let's say, I have a barracks, like here I do have, I'll be able to hire back the soldiers.
Taxes and wages are
So
paid.
let me show you a bit. Here we have our just army that arrived to help us, so we're just gonna use them to attack. I'm just gonna do this kind of simple attack. Usually I wouldn't do that, I would plan it out a bit more, but let's show you just generally the idea. It's pretty safe to attack this thing. These towers don't fire back at me. And so here they are. And here you have different, like I see different military units and artillery. I would say artillery is one of the best ones here. It trumps almost any military units. The only problem with it is that it's physically weak. But overall, I found that using artillery is very much it's the easiest way to deal with enemies. Okay, these guys have built up here. That tower, so let's build up more.
Yes.
For defense purposes.
Upgrade finished.
And we can upgrade them also. Let's get those 2 more settlers because we're missing
Don't even think about blaming me.
our
If the
settlers
building
here.
should collapse, not my fault. I wasn't even here. In fact,
Alright, so
I
this guy's
was
finished the
inside
fighting,
this
and now we
nice
can continue to advance.
clearance, all busy chopping down trees.
Now, the military units in the game pretty much work in type of a rock paper scissors format. Yeah, I think we will have to also force ourselves through this area. Again, I'm just gonna use a general attack in the general area. Again, usually I would choose, where my units will attack and who they're gonna attack against. Alright, it's ready, so let's build up. Let's build up another tower. Help us.
It's payday. Upgrade finished. Aye.
I'm just gonna go ahead and move them to join up with the rest of our forces. So, what's the rock paper scissors approach here in the game? Well, we have swords, spears, and you have archers, and such along things like that. Cavalry is weak against the spears, so you get the idea. There's also 2 different cannons. There's cannons that are good against buildings, and the cannons that are good against soldiers. Generally, though, cannons, the artillery is really powerful. Like I said before, even the ones that are supposed to be good against general buildings will still do deal a lot of damage against units.
Certainly.
Alright, let's build up a few things here. As defenses, that should be sufficient.
Has almost been completely exploited. Upgrade completed.
So, I think that kind of covers the military aspect of it, and you just saw a bit of military attacks, but let's talk a bit there's also hero units here. You have different ones, and they all have different abilities, and you can use them against enemies. I found that I can use heroes, especially in the very beginning, as a way to defeat the enemies that are attacking me, because heroes have area effect abilities and such, as they can boost your troops, they can heal your troops, and all this kind of different things that are very much useful. And here's an example of very good attacks from towers, which are using artillery.
Why, certainly.
Upgrade done. You won't be able to get anything out of one of your stone
Let's upgrade
quarries.
that.
The date
Alright.
for clearing bills. Taxes and
Well,
wages are paid.
what else to do besides the single player content in this game? Well, there's no multiplayer. At least I tried looking, I couldn't find the multiplayer, so I'm not sure if anybody plays multiplayer. So you kind of stuck with single player content, and also keep in mind that single player content is limited to the campaigns mostly, because even though there are single player scenarios, they're very much scripted, and I don't know if they're gonna be that interesting. There's no skirmish mode available. Oh, they killed one of my guys here. There's no skirmish mode available in the game.
Alright.
Right? What happens is that if you have, let's say, like the usual skirmish mode where you have, let's say, your main building and then a few of those worker units. Well, there are maps like that in the game, but Ubisoft openly advises the idea is that, well, if you try to play those maps in single player, you're not gonna have anything interesting going on because the AI does not build anything. Right now, in the scenarios, they're scripted to build something, and usually it's like that. They have a building from which they will pretty much spawn units. Whether it actually makes sense for them to build units from there or not, they still will spawn them.
Your workers is being attacked.
Right? And so what you're gonna have a situation as such is that, and the way they're gonna actually spawn, I would say, is that they'll go in like say, oh, now I'm gonna spawn the swordsman, then I'm gonna spawn the spearman, then I'm gonna spawn the archers, let's say, and then I'm gonna spawn the swordsman again, and then spearman, and then archers, and they'll repeat that. It's not like the AI will spawn proper units for the proper occasion. No, they just spawn them randomly. So in the end, like in the single player skirmish, not single player, but in the scenario maps that are available to you outside the campaign, I don't think it's going to be anything interesting there. At least in the campaign, there's some kind of story that keeps you captivated enough to play through the game. Well, what else? What other problems? Well, there's other problems like that that I found with the game.
If the building should collapse.
One of them is that is actually the sound.
In fact, I was inside of this nice little.
And the reason for the problems, like I say, with sound is that, well, you have voice acting in this game, which is sometimes missing, and sometimes there's just too much of it. Let's say you're gonna go into a mission and campaign, and it's gonna have somebody called a narrator tell you what needs to be done. Then the game decides, well, we're also gonna have somebody called mentor, which kind of like a narrator, which will come in and explain all the same stuff to you. And then in some scenarios, you're gonna have your heroes talk about the same stuff all over again. It's like you really want to get into the actual gameplay, but you have to sit there and listen for all this stuff. Yeah, so that's not exactly good. And there's also another voice acting problem, which is that units tend to say some things that I think supposed to be funny, but they're not really. They might be funny the first time, but not on the second time or the third time, and so on. After that, they become annoying. But the game will continue on to kind of give you that voice lines and so on. The worst offenders are the serfs, which sometimes give you a whole paragraph. And let's say if you jumping from serf to serf and sending them off to different things to do, they'll keep responding to you, and it will, those long paragraph like responses will queue up. And so you might not be already even dealing with the serfs, but you're still listening to them telling you whatever it is that paragraph line about what they're doing supposed to be or something like that that's supposed to be funny. Really annoying. Really annoying. Now, there's a very good thing about that I liked about this game was the fact that it had a very good tutorial. The tutorial allowed me to build all the buildings available in the game, to experiment with them. I really like that. Another thing that you should know is that you can play any campaign in the let's say basically you can play the base campaign, I would say, in any expansion. All you need to do is start the campaign and save the first mission and once you're there, you can just load it up in the expansion and get the advantage of having those extra buildings, extra units available to you. In my case, I didn't do so. I played through the base game, then played through the first expansion, and found out there's better units available and so on. Like, well, not better units, but more unit variety available. Now, the second expansion does not add any extra units, any extra buildings, like the first one, and I didn't really play it because but that time I found that the gameplay was too repetitive for me, so I decided, like, no, I'm not gonna play this anymore. I guess what else I should mention is the fact that if you wanna get this game, that you better get a history edition, because from my experience is that it's a good game, but only with all that expansion content. Without that expansion content, I don't think it's going to be as interesting, because like I said, you know, single player scenarios are lacking, and your
Leave it to us. With
multiplayer is multiplayer in this game is non-existent. So from that perspective, I just don't see a point of playing the game without expansions. If you can get the expansions, good. If you can't get expansions, I don't know. I'm not really then it would be interested in this game.
Payday.
Right? To me, it would be just an okay game in that case. There's nothing really cool that happens in this game, I would say. So from that perspective, I would like to say that it's an uncool game. So I think that kind of summarizes everything that I want to say about the game. Don't expect it to be like Settlers 1 through 4. That's, I think, the reason is that this game is called the Settlers Heritage of Kings. It's not Settlers 5. And the reason is that they switched it up so much that you're not gonna have what previous experience of Settlers 4, where it was a much more previous Settlers 1 through 4, where it was a much more deeper economy system available. In this game, you're not gonna have that. So what you're gonna have here is the regular RTS. Now, if you want a deeper economy system, I would recommend for you to go into the Settlers and play the Settlers 10th Anniversary Edition, I would say. One thing that I forgot to mention is that interesting element in this game is the ability for you to control the weather. You have a weather machine that allows you to melt the ice or to freeze it, to allow you to kind of cross between different areas. In the expansion, you'll be able to build bridges. Alright, well, that's it. That's all I had to say. Thank you for watching and for listening. If you like this video, please like it. If you didn't like it, don't like it, and please follow and subscribe.